Okay, 12.2 will also be another public hearing item. Report, discussion, and possible action to adopt resolution 2019-2020.42 for possible use of the education protection account. Dr. Hagelin?
This one is going back over to Ahmad's team.
Okay.
Great. This one's pretty straightforward. The Education Protection Act provides our funding. That was a tax that was put before the before the community, the state of California, and part of that provision was a reporting of our how we spent those monies. And every year we provide this, and all the dollars are indicated to go towards our staff here at PUSD. And so this is a standard report that we provide annually, and would like the action request is for the board to approve this item.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, hearing none, I'll go to open it up for public hearing. Patrick, do we have anyone?
We have no comments on this item, President Maher.
Okay, with that, I'll close the public hearing. Any more questions or comments? Okay, is there someone who would like to?
Yeah, I'll move approval of resolution 2019-2020.42.
I'll second.
Okay. Trustee Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Larson?
Aye.
Trustee Arkin?
Aye.
Trustee Yee?
Aye.
And Trustee Meyer, aye. Motion carries. Okay, 12.3. Report, discussion, and possible action to approve 2020 LCAP COVID-19 operations written report. Dr. Woodward.
Good evening, President Maher, Superintendent Hagelin, members of the board and the Pleasanton community. The item before the board is a report, discussion, and possible action to approve the 2020 LCAP COVID-19 operations written report. This is the first of its kind. It's due to COVID. This report, it must explain changes to program offerings that have been made in our response to the COVID-19 school closures. And once adopted by the local governing board prior to June 30th, this operations report must be prominently posted on the homepage of our website. So I'd like to turn over to Dr. Pam Vandekamp, the Director of Assessment and Accountability, and she will take it from here. Dr. Vandekamp.
Thank you, Dr. Woodward. Let me share my screen with you. And so tonight good evening, Superintendent Hagelin, members of the Board of Trustees, Executive Cabinet, and members of the Pleasanton community. Thank you for this opportunity to share with you the operations report for PUSD tonight. So this report is in response to Executive Order N5620, which suspended development of the Local Control Accountability Plan. And it is intended to provide information to the public about the ways that our district addressed the changes to our program as a result of the COVID-19 emergency, specifically in these 4 areas: support for high-need students, distance learning, school meals, and student supervision for students of essential workers. Prior to the shelter-in-place order, can you go back? There we go. Prior to the shelter-in-place order, all staff held multiple meetings in preparation for the possibility of interruptions to the educational programs in Pleasanton. Throughout the shelter-in-place order between March 13th and May 29th, we continued to adjust and adapt with grace and flexibility. In particular, we were able to provide additional resources for our high-need students. We want to recognize the efforts of our parent liaisons, our site technicians, social workers, school site office staff, and many others who went above and beyond to support our families. In addition, our exceptional teaching staff pulled out all the stops to adjust to the new normal. They quickly set up Google Classrooms and provided learning opportunities for all students. The development of a temporary hold harmless grading policy engaged many stakeholders and provided opportunities for advancement. The TV 30 segments kept our larger community informed of our efforts as well. Our child nutrition staff ensured a smooth and seamless transition to providing meals for eligible students and partnered with the Alameda County Food Bank, as we heard tonight, for additional services such as groceries. And they were assisted by the parent liaisons again in this work. Student services and teaching and learning worked together to provide supervision during school hours for children of essential workers, beginning on April 14th up until May 29th. This included opportunities for learning practice, a meal, and opportunities for play while following appropriate measures to ensure student and staff health. As Dr. Woodward mentioned, all LEAs are following approval of this, which we hope for tonight. We will be posting this on our website. And then as the order stated, the annual update would be submitted on December 15th, and a 3-year LCAP plan would be developed for June 30th. As Dr. Haglund mentioned, trailer bills are in process, and so that might change those last 2 items, but we'll wait and see what the guidance is from California Department of Education. So at this time, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Board, anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, I do not. Okay, moving forward, do we have a motion to accept?
Yeah, so just, want to take the chance to reiterate that I do believe that we have done a very thoughtful and courageous job in a sense of maintaining our educational integrity and so forth during this. And as reflected in the operations report there, I personally witnessed the food distribution that we've been doing and that type of thing. And I think we absolutely qualify. And so I'm happy to make a motion that we approve the operations report.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Larson.
Aye.
Trustee Arkin.
Aye.
Trustee Lee.
Aye.
And Trustee Maher, aye. Motion passed. Okay, 12.4. Report, discussion, and possible action to approve school plans for student achievement. Dr. Woodward.
Yes, thank you, President Maher. Each year, the principal or designee at every site works together with the school site council to review and update the school plans. And this begins in September with a review of relevant student data that included the dashboard. And there are strengths and challenges that are reviewed, and it continues throughout the school year. And at the end of the year, the updated plans reflect the changes and the current goals and actions and services at each site. And annually, we bring the school plans for student achievement, also called SIPSAs, to the board for approval. And tonight we'll be using the gift of technology to do it for you in a little different manner, but I think you're going to enjoy this presentation. So Dr. Van de Kamp, back to you.
Thank you very much. So again, thank you for the opportunity to meet with you, be here this evening to share with you the school plans for student achievement for the Pleasanton Unified School District. So as Dr. Woodward said, the plans are developed each year in collaboration with stakeholder groups at each school, including the school site council, but also working with each school English Learner Advisory Council, with guiding coalitions, our instructional learning teams, and school site staff. And they are reviewing specific data, including the California dashboard and state assessment results. So based on that data and the review of their plan, they, and looking at the school context, they update yearly in all of these areas with alignment to our district organizational goals and our LCAP goals. And so tonight I want to thank Karen Johnson, the principal at Alisal Elementary, and Caroline Fields, the principal at Hart Middle School, and Josh Butterfield, the principal at Amador High School, for sharing brief highlights of their plan. All of them have provided a video with this information for you, which I will play for you. And then Karen Johnson and Josh Butterfield are here also if you have any questions for them. So let me share Alisal's to start. So you can see here just a brief synopsis, and here is Karen sharing her plan.
As many of you know, last year, Alisal was awarded the distinction of being named a model professional learning community by Solution Tree. Being one of only 14 schools in California and fewer than 250 worldwide, we are very proud of this accomplishment. That being said, it is the work we do every day that is aligned with our mission to focus on high levels of learning for all that helps us to continue to impact and increase student learning. Using the 4 questions to guide us and relying on data to make instructional adjustments, we have been able to continually show growth with all student groups in the areas of both math and reading for the past 4 years. This year, in order to move from good to great, we focused our attention on the areas of assessment literacy, instructional agility, and greater levels of inclusion for all students. We define assessment literacy as having a deep understanding of the different types of assessments, including how to develop assessments that will give you the information you need, as well as the impact of effective feedback on student learning. Instructional agility is defined as being able to respond appropriately and effectively to the information gained through assessments. And the idea of including all students in our success needs no definition. To provide a specific example of what this process looks like, let's talk a minute about our first grade data. In September, we noticed an area of concern. Fewer than 67% of our students were reading at grade level. In order to respond, we had conversations about the individual skills needed to be successful in reading. We then developed common assessments to measure growth in these skills. Teachers went on their own to teach and then assess these skills. And then the group came back together after an agreed upon amount of time and collaboratively analyzed student data. Further adjustments were made and the process repeated, now with the new information in mind. As you can see, by following the progression of the data, this process works and our methods were successful. Thank you very much and have a great evening.
And now we'll move on to Hart Middle School.
Good evening. I'm Caroline Fields, principal at Hart Middle School, and I'm here to share with you our site plan for next year for our goal number 1. So goal number 1 for district is to ensure ongoing implementation of resource-based assessment that focuses on academic growth and helps to close the achievement gap. So as our school site council really looked at data this year, we determined that we would like to write this goal, which is to increase students with disability and our socioeconomically disadvantaged proficiency in English language arts and math by 5% during the next year. And what we will use is multiple measures to determine that, including MAP and CAS data, but also multiple measures, formative and summative assessments in the classroom. And so some of the sub goals or plans to make this happen and make sure we're really supporting not only all of our students, but especially our SPED and SED students, is we are going to be offering some tier 3 intervention classes, such as math skills at grade level 6, 7, and 8. And we feel that that is really important this year since we are coming from remote learning and some students may have struggled especially. So we are developing criteria and curriculum for these intervention classes so we know which kids should come in and get that extra help and how we can make sure that they are reaching goals and able to exit and get back out into those regular classrooms, as well as we are making sure that on our RTI, response to intervention, that we are still looking at curriculum, doing our essential standards, and having our teacher teams look at those essentials and developing targets and common formative assessments, again, to help all students, but especially students that are struggling how to provide tier 2 during access period or in other ways to support students who may need a little reteach as we go along. And then our main thing too is also to provide professional development and extra support for teachers for just best tier 1 practices. So for good teaching, but also to enhance our blended learning, especially as we did experience remote learning and whatever our format is in the fall, whether we're back full-time, hybrid, or remote, that blended learning and technology, digital teaching, there's lots to learn. There's lots of great stuff out there, and we want to make sure we're at the top of our game. So that's our plan for Goal 1, and we are excited to make sure all of our students are successful this year, and thank you for your time.
All right, and then we'll move on to Amador Valley with Josh Butterfield.
Good evening, Superintendent Haglin, President Steve Maher, Cabinet and board members. My name is Josh Butterfield, I'm principal at Amador Valley High School. Thank you for having me here today to present a little bit about our single plan for student achievement over at Amador Valley High School. I'm going to talk a little bit about our goal number 1, which is in alignment with our district organizational goal to ensure ongoing implementation of research-based assessment strategies that focus on student academic growth and are leveraged to help close achievement and opportunity gaps. At the site, this is aligned with our WASC goal and action plan to provide more opportunities for growth through targeted collaboration and professional development to support identified student groups, continue program evaluation, and align curriculum and instructional approaches for consistency of student learning experiences. So one of the things that we've been working really hard on this year, and we want to continue to work into the next couple school years over at Amador Valley, is to reduce the variability of learning experiences of students between different classrooms. So one of those things is to ensure that our departments and grade level teams are collaborating to make sure that we are utilizing the best instructional approaches and strategies. One of the ways we do this is through the development of common formative assessments where our staff can reflect on student outcomes through a quiz or a short assessment and monitor student growth and progress through the curriculum. This also allows us to reflect on those instructional strategies that were most effective, where the data shows were most effective by the formative assessments. Some other areas that we're really focused on is ensuring access and promotion of our CTE capstone classes, particularly to some of our historically underserved students. So this is measured on the California dashboard under college and career readiness. And one of the things that we found at Amador is that we do have our underserved students have lower enrollment in some of those capstone classes. So that's an opportunity for growth for us. And then the final area that we're really focusing on in this realm is to ensure access when appropriate for students with disabilities to our A through G curriculum through our supported model of classes. We provide a lot of opportunities for our teachers who teach some of our supported general ed classes for collaboration with our special ed and general ed teachers to ensure that our students with disabilities are successful in the general ed and have access to the A through G curriculum. Thank you very much. I look forward to answering any questions that you may have.
So I just want to thank Karen and Carolyn and Josh again for providing that overview for us. And I appreciate that they're here tonight also to answer any questions. So our next steps, the principals have provided executive summaries, so an overview of these areas for the public and the board to review so that you don't necessarily have to read a 150-page document or a 100-page document, but have the opportunity to see what their goals, actions, and services are. In addition, the full text, the full documents are linked here for you to read as well. And so at this time, if there are any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
The board, do you have any questions?
I don't have a question, but I just have a couple of comments. I just, with my PTA hat on here, I would hope that all of our sites are working with their PTA, and the PTA should really be helping to align their budget and their goals to the site plans. So I just want to remind everybody that I hope that's continuing to happen. And for anybody out there in the public, these site plans are probably the best reading that you will get in our school district that really gives you an idea of really what's happening and where people are going. So I would encourage everyone to read these site plans. It's really the best stuff we crank out on paper. Thanks to all the principals and all the school site committees.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I just a couple things. I've not made it through all of them, I will say, yet. But it is a good chance to do the reflection and that type of thing. One thing I do want to call out, first of all, number one, thank you for the executive summaries. I really do appreciate that. Number two is, especially calling out Josh here, is it's great to see in some of these specific targets that you're looking to achieve. And Amador does a really good job of laying out in each of the areas certain measures they're actually looking to increase by 5%. And Carolyn talked about this a little bit, 5% in growth in this particular area, whatever. I definitely think if we don't have a number that we're striving for, we're not going to know if we're successful, right? I mean, just saying we're going to increase, achievement or whatever is, well, what if you don't in that year or whatever? Then, but if you have a goal of 5%, then you really maybe you try a little harder or something. So I do appreciate that, and I really would like all of our school sites to be a little bit more SMART goal focused in their plans. But thank you.
I would actually agree with Trustee Miller on that. I've mentioned that in the past as well. I think having something measurable is always a good idea, and I would hope that we would strive to continue doing that.
Joan?
Yeah, similar comments. Jamie and I have been kind of on the same page of this with site plans for a long time. It is kind of really, for those parents out there who want to get more involved with, the meat of what's happening with education with their, for their students on their school site, talk to your principals and find out what opportunities are still available with site committees, because, this is where this work happens and where these conversations happen. And yes, of course, PTA is a wonderful partner and should have, representation or, at least some participation on some of these committees as well. I agree about the measurable goals. I think, Karen, it was your presentation that had the, you're showing the chart about where the assessment was, you came back a month later, seeing some movement, still, iterating. And I know all of the principals are working on that too. It was just that particular chart that you shared was very clear about that. And, so it's, it's that intentionality that you all are spending a lot of time on and focus that's going to move the needle for some kids. And so I really appreciate that. Thanks.
in my conclusion, I just think all of you did very well. What I appreciated was your willingness of your transparency of saying, hey, this is an area we need to improve, and we're going to work at it, and we're going to include parents in it, and then we're going to follow up on it. And I think when you start adding numbers to things and, hey, we want to reach this, much like an IEP, like a goal, we want to be here. And then you check to see if you are here. And if you are there, then you've made your mark. So again, I appreciate it. They're well done, kind of different with the video, but I thought it was great. So thank you very much. And we are asked to approve these school plans. So do I have a motion?
I'll move approval of the SPSAs for 2020,
Second.
2021.
I'll second.
Okay. Trustee Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Larson,
Aye.
Trustee Arkin,
Aye.
Trustee Yee,
Aye.
and Trustee Maher, aye. Motion passes. Okay, 12.5, public hearing, report, discussion, and possible action to approve revised board policy and exhibit 6163.4, student use of technology, 10 minutes, how appropriate, okay. And Ahmad.
Great, thank you. Well, we're getting ready for the new school year. We've been looking at our technology use policy, and Amy brought this to our attention that we need to make some updates, and it's been through the subcommittee process. And so to go through the details, I'm going to turn over to our Senior Director of Technology and Procurement, Amy Nichols.
Good evening, members of the board, cabinet, and community. Tonight, as Ahmed said, I am here to present a recommended update to our board policy 6163.4 regarding the student acceptable use of technology. I am asking the board to conduct a public hearing to obtain any community feedback about the recommended policy, and then to consider approval of the updated BP that is attached to this agenda item. Also attached to this agenda item is the associated exhibit that goes along with the board policy. The exhibit is the document that parents or guardians and students sign at the start of the year to acknowledge their receipt of the policy and their agreement with the terms it contains. So the current version of this policy was last revised in 1996, well before we implemented district-wide internet access, Wi-Fi, or began distributing computers to staff and students. Times have changed, and the administration presents the attached policy as an update to maintain compliance with modern laws and regulations, as well as to validate that we are utilizing the best practices that promote the safe and responsible use of technology for teaching and learning. If approved, the administration plans to do deep work during the 2020-21 school year to fully implement this policy, including ensuring that all students are presented with age-appropriate digital citizenship curriculum. In addition, if students make choices that are not consistent with the new policy, we want to provide our teachers and administrators with consistent corrective practices that will help reinforce these appropriate digital citizenship skills and redirect the inappropriate student behaviors. In order to define and implement this program, we plan to convene a subcommittee of the District Tech Committee that will include teachers, site administrators, and staff from the district's student services, teaching and learning, and technology departments. A key outcome of that work will be to create an administrative regulation to accompany this BP and exhibit that will define these curricular materials and associated disciplinary practices. As we worked on developing this policy update, we sought feedback from several sources within the district. We presented the recommended policy update and associated exhibit to the teachers and other staff who are participating in the school reopening task force, as well as the district's discipline committee. We have incorporated feedback from these groups. And our public hearing tonight is required for certain components of this policy and is also our opportunity to obtain feedback from our community about these recommended updates. This item is agendized as a possible action item. The board may opt to request a second read and approval of the policy at a later meeting, or may make a motion tonight to approve the policy as it is presented, or with any modifications you may think are necessary after hearing our community feedback. With that, I'll turn this item back to you, President Maher, for the public hearing and the board's comments and questions. Thank you.
I would like to ask the board to give their comments and questions. Then I will go to public hearing and then back to the board. So, anybody want to start?
No, we got our questions pretty much answered during the policy subcommittee meeting.
Okay.
And hope that everyone is excited about formalizing our use of technology with our students.
Okay, anybody else? I read it also, so.
Yeah, I swore we had this already, but maybe it was just in the handbooks or something that we gave out to students. But no, it's very comprehensive, and yeah, you guys did a good job.
Okay.
So
Mark, I think there was one for staff that we've seen before.
What it was? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and move approval of.
Wait, I need public comment first.
Oh.
Any other comments? Okay, I'd like to open up.
President Maher, we have one public comment on this item.
Let me open it up. Public comment is open. Go ahead.
All right. One of our students, Devansh Pandey. Go ahead.
Good evening, trustees. Good evening, Superintendent Haglund. Good evening, Executive Cabinet. I'm here today to speak with you about the new technology policy. I'd first like to commend Mr. Ahmad, Ms. Nichols, and their teams for all of the work they've done and the consideration that has been put into all the policies presented today. However, as the technology policy currently stands, it must not be implemented by the board right now. Trustees, the district technology policy, well-intentioned as it is, unfortunately does allow a lot of room for teachers and other officials to violate students' rights in a way that they should not be able to do. Considering that the district computer policy is one that was opt-out and even then almost impossible to opt out of, the district should not then take advantage of the fact that the majority of the population signs agreements without reading to violate those students' rights. Trustees, I know your intention is to prevent cyberbullying and misuse, which is a wonderful goal that I empathize with fully. However, the district access to any password ever entered on a district device is an overreach and violates student privacy in a systematic way. Trustees, superintendent, executive officials, we can do better. We should strive to make sure that students can feel safe online without feeling watched all the time by their school district. I hope you agree that there are many school rules direly in need of revision and reconsideration, and allowing searches of personal devices based on reasonable suspicion of violation of school rules gives too much power to individuals and does not fix any problems. Board of Trustees, please do the right thing and table this policy until more discussion happens. Technology dominates the lives of students, as you all know, and this decision has implications for the entire student body of PUSD. We must get further community input before renewing a policy with such massive implications. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Devnesh. Okay, that closes the public hearing. Any more comments, questions?
Yeah, President Maher, I do.
Okay.
Kind of related to what Devansh just said, this policy is specific to district-owned devices, correct?
Yes, this policy is specific to district-owned devices, including servers and any sort of district systems that students access.
Thank you.
I just have one question too. Amy, how does the district know when a student is using the computer inappropriately?
Very often the situations that have occurred are ones that we hear about when there are problems. So it's if one student brings up an issue with another student, or if a teacher observes something that a student is doing. So we find out about issues from other people and in human ways, and then we respond to them by, potentially conducting an investigation or that sort of thing. But it's usually some sort of situation that's been brought to the attention of a teacher or by another student, or that a teacher has specifically witnessed.
So it's not a case of there's someone downtown viewing everybody's computer.
That is correct.
Right. Yeah, I didn't think so. Okay.
Hey, I've got a question. So the text for this board policy, was it gleaned from anything like CSBA type document or something like that?
Yes, we did utilize the model policy that was provided in the CSBA policy manual.
Okay. And then the other comment I would have is that so what that implies is that this is probably very consistent with most other districts in the state.
Yes.
And then the other thing I would say is, as an employee of a company, we absolutely sign over our rights to be searched or whatever by our company at any given time. So for company-owned device type stuff. So this is very consistent to that. It's not the broad general public here. These are people using our devices. So I was going to go ahead and move approval. But,
okay. Any other comments, questions?
Just to clarify, CSBA is California School Board Association. I don't know if everybody in the public knows that. So.
Okay. Not hearing any more comments or questions. Mark, go ahead.
I'll move approval of, I don't have the number in front of me here, the board policy.
12.5.
Okay, 12.5.
I'll second.
Okay. Trustee Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Larson?
Aye.
Trustee Arkin?
Aye.
Trustee Yee?
Aye.
And Trustee Maher? Aye.
Just one quick comment on that, and then I'll move for extension in just a second. Just as Ms. Nichols mentioned, Devansh, the administrative regulation that will detail how this policy will be put into place in our school district, and what circumstances and the procedures that will be followed is likely to take a year of work by staff and community. So I would encourage you to contact Ms. Nichols about student representation on that conversation. And I would just echo Mark's comment about it is when you're using not your own private devices, you should have no expectation of privacy. And that is as true for our students using our devices as it is for our employees as well, using our district devices, as well as employees in the private sector and other public agencies. So anyway, that being said, I will move we extend the meeting 20.
Midnight.
Oh, wow. 25, 30, 35. 11:30? No later than 11:30?
We have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Trustee Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Larson?
Aye.
Trustee Arkin?
Aye.
Trustee Yee?
Aye.
And Trustee Maher? Aye. The meeting can go no longer than 11:30.
And can I just make one more comment on that that last thing too? And that is, I neglected to thank Devansh for his comments. I didn't mean to gloss over them because they really were well stated and a very important point, absolutely important point that we should not overlook. That privacy is important, but I Trustee Larson, that's a great comment of having him participate in some way in helping craft the administrative regulation on this. That would be really helpful. So anyway, thank you for that comment.
Yeah, so get involved. That's what we're asking. Okay, at this time, instead of going to 12:06, we do have Derek from CSEA who would like to speak on behalf of CSEA. He came in late, and so I'd like to give him opportunities. So Derek, are you there?
Am I on?
You are.
All right. Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board, the public, the district. Laura actually would have been here herself this evening, but she's on vacation. So she asked me to read something that she prepared for you. It seems more appropriate if it had come in the beginning, but bear with me. I think the sentiment is still valid, and the following is her comment. CSE understands that the legislature and governor have reached a budget agreement that will be finalized when the governor signs the budget. There is a trailer bill legislation that includes the intent not to lay off classified employees because schools districts will receive the same funding for 2020 and 2021 that they received in 2019 and 2020. CSEA feels that any layoff of classified members, including any graphics department employees, will be unnecessary and premature at this time. Our classified members continue to serve our community as we reopen the Kids Club, STEAM, and Horizon programs to provide safe places for kids to be cared for. CSEA continues to participate on committees discussing the reopening of schools in support of our students, keeping in mind safety, personal protection equipment, and protocols that need to be put in place. In addition, we are preparing to negotiate for our new 3-year successor contract. We recently negotiated 2 new job descriptions for occupational therapists and the physical therapist in order to bring these positions in-house, thereby reducing the cost to contract out for these services. We strive to meet the needs of our schools, staff, and students. Thank you and have a good evening. Those are the words of, you're welcome. Those are the words of Laura Martinez, our chapter president. My name is Derek Basaros. I'm CSEA Chief Job Steward and Site Tech Specialist for Amador Valley. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Derek. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to 12.6. Report, discussion, and update on reopening options for the 2020-21 school year. Dr. Hagelin?
Thank you, President Miller. This is a presentation that's born out of many engagements, starting first with, I think, a thought exchange building to town halls. Never in my life have I facilitated a phone call with 800 people on it. But people have interest, and they have stepped up and given us a whole lot of stuff to think about. And so that process of thinking and cogitating and planning has resulted in a few presentations at our study sessions. Tonight is an update that will be led by Dr. Woodward. And then in June, we will come back with on the 14th, we will come back for another study session with a detailed plan. So to the community, thank you for your engagement and your input, as well as for your patience as we develop the plan. I encourage you to not formulate an opinion on a FAQ that you find on the website. Please understand that those are the current thinking of the district, and it is modified each time we engage with you. So be patient with us, please. We're trying to get to the best solution for your students. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Woodward.
Thank you, Dr. Hagnon, and members of the board and President Maher. I have not too many slides to go with you tonight. I want to begin by saying that this is just a broad overview. What I'm taking you through is a 30,000-foot view today of some of the updates regarding what we have been doing for school reopening. So this is probably one of the most important slides in this presentation, and I'd like to think that they're all important, but there are 3 in particular I'd like to call your attention to. So this is what we know. As we all realize, information is changing rapidly, and in terms of the impact of school reopening, there are some things that have become very apparent to us over time and continue to be true. First, we know that health and safety are the top priority for our families and for our staff. And our options must be able to slide and stretch. I'll be talking a little bit more about that term, slide and stretch, and what I mean by that in the upcoming slides. Some students need additional learning support, and our families and our students want to have choice in the options. Each option that we have must support student learning and be able to differentiate between the different learning needs that our students have. I also want to bring attention to the fact that we have engaged and will continue to engage numerous stakeholders in school reopening discussions, and that includes telephone calls, survey data, and also email communication. Finally, just to point out that while many districts have announced their final plans, it is still June and school begins in August. We've learned through this journey over the last several months how much can change in just one day. So we know and we can learn from plans that have been made around us. I want to assure the PUSD community that we are taking our time to make our plan the very best plan possible for our students. In terms of the processes and stakeholders that are involved, we obviously always defer to the board, and we thank you for your guidance and your questions and your confidence in us as we move forward in this process. In the very center of this slide, you see the reopening task force. This is a very robust and ever-growing group that represents various stakeholders from within our district, including our teachers, our classified staff, our administrators, and they are working tirelessly during the time when they would normally be off to provide input, because this is extremely important for us to consider all of the input from our stakeholders. At the very center of that is the steering committee that helps to plan the planning, and we are thankful for the parents and our students and our staff that serve on this very important committee. And then you see that there are other circles that surround the yellow one, and that is our community, our students, parents and guardians, our administrators, our classified employees, and our certificated employees. And so these are two-way conversations that happen with all of our stakeholder groups. And I'm sure that at every meeting they learn from us what we're doing. And I just want to assure our community we learn from you too, and we're listening. And I thank you for your patience as we navigate and do something that we've never done before. We're listening to you. I'm going to turn it over right now to Mr. Ed Diolazzo, the Assistant Superintendent of Student Support Services, and he's going to tell us what the current thinking is and guidance from Alameda County Public Health Department for today, understanding that it very well may change tomorrow. Mr. Diolazzo?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Woodward. And as Janelle just mentioned, health and safety is definitely our top priority. And so we want to update you with the recommendations from the Alameda County Public Health Department, and also just to frame the conversation as well, as we really think through health and safety throughout all of the different options that we're discussing. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit in this presentation. You see the date there. It's from June 18th, 2020. And so actually just a few hours ago today, a publication just came out from Alameda County Public Health Department in collaboration with Alameda County Office of Education. So hot off the presses, what I'd like to do is actually not go through the bullets on this particular slide. I took some notes from that document that I read again just a few hours ago, and I'd really like to go through those notes because that is the most up-to-date information. That information brings a lot of clarity to what we need to prepare for. So I'd like to do that. And then at a later time, I'm going to update this particular slide, and then Dr. Woodward, we will repost this, and so that you'll have the updated information. So if you let me go through my notes, hopefully this will be helpful for our future planning.
Take this slide off.
What's that?
Should we take the slide off so we don't confuse?
Sure, thank you. So the main areas that I want to review are physical distancing guidance, guidance on face coverings, guidance on personal care, and then also guidance on pre-health screening. And I'll go through each one. Regarding face coverings, so cloth face coverings are now required for all students and all staff. So kindergarten on up, face coverings will be required. There are some exceptions. So students and staff with health issues or have some other circumstances that do not allow them to wear face coverings would be exempt. But with that, face shields would be a permissible substitute to face coverings. There's some specific guidelines and details with that in the document. Like I said, I'm just going through some notes regarding that. So I just wanted to reiterate that face coverings are now required for all students and all staff, all students kindergarten and up, and then all staff. There's been some questions about self-screening for their students' temperatures or staff's temperatures. So the official language now from this document, it's students and families and staff are required to self-screen at home or before they enter the building. So that self-screening should be conducted again before students step on the campus. If students are unable to, for whatever reason, then we would have to provide an on-site visual or temperature screening. Regarding physical distancing, this is actually similar to the previous guidance. So as practicable, desks should be placed 6 feet apart and arranged in a way that minimizes face-to-face contact. That's been the guidance, is that 6 foot distance, and that continues. There are some relaxations of those specific rules when it comes to these cohorts. So if we have stable cohorts, consistent cohorts of students, then they actually would allow for 5 feet distance. So that change, that 1 foot actually changes the number of kids that we can plan for in a specific classroom. So there is no size limit of the groups. Right now, just for a frame of reference, in our summer camps and our childcare programs during summer, the number that I've said in the many virtual town halls is 12 or under. So that's sort of been the number of kids that can be in a group, a cohort group. So in this particular new guidance today, there is no number for the size of groups. So as practicable, students should remain in the same space and in the same groups, as small and as consistent as possible. So that is the current language on this particular document. Again, very different than what we had heard before. Length of time of the cohorts, they really want to keep cohorts for at least 4 weeks. That would be considered a stable cohort. And then new students who enroll can join that stable cohort. So again, very, very good information that we're going to take into consideration as we move forward. And then one last point that I want to make is teachers will be able to teach different cohorts of children as long as they're practicing the physical distancing protocols, the personal care protocols. So that's new as well. So a teacher can actually join different cohorts of kids, which makes sense in our secondary programs where teachers potentially could be teaching different classrooms and different groups of children. So those are the main highlights of this document. The document is called COVID-19 School Guidance, Alameda County School Reopening Plans. And again, it's a joint publication from the Alameda County Office of Education and the Alameda County Public Health Department. And it's hot off the presses just a few hours ago. So those are my notes. And again, we will upload this document into this presentation and then repost it so that the community has access to it. So that's what I have for this particular slide, Janelle.
Thank you so much, Mr. De Lazo. And so it goes. We prepare for our board presentation, and then right before the board presentation, we get new information. So hence this slide. And I mentioned that there were several important slides. This is also very important for our board to know and our community. And that is that we continue to listen and adjust. And so as an example, what Mr. De Lazo just shared will cause us to now make further adjustments. But what I'd like to communicate this evening is that stakeholder feedback is very important to us. And our process has been intentional in terms of the steps that we're taking. Even our pre-registration intent form was deliberate because we knew we would get information that would then prompt us to be able to adjust as needed. And so the feedback does guide our planning process. We are modifying and we are adjusting in order to provide a high quality program for our students in person and from a distance. We realize that there are many families who, for whatever reason, cannot have their students take the risk and come to school at all. So we are working to be able to provide distance learning opportunities for them, in addition to the Flex Academy that can occur at their home sites, especially for elementary, when previously it was thought that if students needed to enroll in the Flex Academy, it might mean that they wouldn't be able to return. We've been brainstorming and troubleshooting and thinking of ways, and we think that we have some possibilities as to how we can help our elementary families ensure that their students get to stay at their home schools and also receive a distant learning program. So we'll be planning that in the next week. Again, this is all new. We are making progress towards finalization of our plans. Tonight, I bring you the broad ideas, not a specific plan. and policy and guidance from state and public health will also inform our decisions. So what I'd like to show you right now is just the pre-registration intent form data. A week ago, we sent out this survey, a week ago on Friday, and this is not a firm commitment. This is just to give us a sense of what our most accurate numbers might be. I realized that initially we sent out another survey, and that was a little bit broader, and this was intended to drill down a little bit more with specifics. From this, we've received multiple questions, and so we continue to adjust based upon what we hear. So I'm going to present to you what the options were that were on this parent intent form data, and then how we'll readjust for any changes that we need to make going forward. So option one was our hybrid model, and option one includes the slide and stretch that I just mentioned, meaning that in option one, this would be the program where the majority of our students would go. It would be hybrid in that we would be able to stretch into a full-time return to school on the physical campus, or slide back into 100% distance learning if that is warranted, or stay somewhere in the middle with some sort of a hybrid experience where social distancing is practiced at our sites, and there are less students on a campus at one time to help reduce the spread of COVID. And then option two was the new Flex Academy program, which is a personalized learning experience that's supported by flexible scheduling. And we like to think of this as a virtual academy plus, because this virtual academy will not be solely just online. It will also include an interactive component with teachers and hopefully with classmates. And so we see in this survey that about 9.5, and I actually checked our data, and now we're up to over 8,000 responses, and we're up to 9.6% of our families would like to enroll in the Flex Academy, with 88.9% looking at the hybrid as an option. And then 1.6% saying, hey, I think we'd be interested in long-term independent study, which is really good for a family that likes the idea of homeschooling their child while getting support from our school district. So we are adjusting, and I will talk to you a little bit more about that, but I'd like to kind of show you what the numbers are looking like right now, because this helps guide our staffing. This pre-registration intent form doesn't close until July 3rd, so we do have more time. Great news, we're about 55% there with completion. So these are the numbers. This is for our hybrid model. We can see clearly that this is where many of our families are leaning. And then this is our flex model. So we can see the distribution. We can break this down by our school sites. And we can see by school site, how is this looking? Do we have enough room for a full class at a school site that can be hosted there for distance learning? And will we expect these numbers to continue to grow? And after I share with you a little bit about what we're thinking, I expect that these numbers will increase. And then also our long-term independent study. Just the current data right now, but very useful for looking at the trends in our school district. As well, we have the information now from our families in terms of emails that we can reach out to our families now to be able to talk to them about the adjustments that we are going to be making, such as looking for ways to, instead of have our elementary students need to enroll in a different school, like the Flex program, that they would be able to engage in that at their home sites. And so we have some work to do to go back and now contact those families that have completed this form, and moving forward, make adjustments to the form so that we have broad consensus from all of our stakeholders on the best option for their children. In terms of the hybrid option, which is the being ready for adjustments, and again, to the right of this, we stretch into a full-time return to school. To the left of this, we slide back into distance learning, depending upon the health factors. But for the middle, where we look at having students come to school with social distancing requirements, we have several options that are on the table right now. Our task force is working tirelessly. Our teachers are meeting on their summers to come up with these plans. They're not getting paid to do that. They're doing it because they want to have a voice and be a part of it, and their plans are awesome. We are very thankful. But some of the options we're considering are AM and PM. There's a possibility of a 2-2-1 or a 2-1-2 model in which half the group comes on 2 days a week. There's a day for cleaning, and then the half the group comes on the other days of the week. At secondary, that might result in block schedules because, as we know, our students have to change and go to 6 or 7 classes a day. And then there's lunch in between. So that's a lot of potential intermixing. And we'd like to be able to safeguard our students and keep them healthy by reducing the amount of time and places that they need to travel on a campus. Another idea is the 4 days on, 1 day off, so that teachers can have time for their planning, their development, and just really ensuring that they are equipped for the next week of school. And then the following week, some of the students stay. Some of the students go home that were there the week before, and new students come in. So we haven't decided on the best model for this. Again, Mr. Dialazzo mentioned 4 weeks on, 4 weeks off. There are new things we're learning all of the time. We want to look at what is also not only just the safest and healthiest for our students, our families, and our staff, but also what is the most instructionally sound thing to do for our students. Because for our students to go for several weeks, especially our younger ones, without seeing a teacher can be very, very hard. This just goes into a little bit more description about the hybrid model. I've already elaborated on that, but basically on the days that the students are here, they're able to receive instruction from the teacher. On the days that they're at home, they can work on their independent practice, they can do projects, and there may be ways to continue to interact with the class, and we're looking into that as well. Students with IEPs would require an alternative learning plan to address this service delivery model and would be able to take advantage of any of our options that we have. Again, in the hybrid, we'd like to see our students return as much as possible. If I had my way right now, I would have all of our students return full time. And I know that many of our families would love that too, but the guidance that we've received from the health department does not indicate right now that that would be a wise decision for our students. It could change, but as of this time, it doesn't appear that way. For option 2, our Flex Academy, we're very excited about this. One very important point that I want to make is that every effort is being made to have students remain at their home schools or return to schools if they choose the Flex Academy. At the secondary level, students not only can still be involved with their comprehensive high school, but they're encouraged to be involved. They can continue to take advantage of some courses that are singletons and may be difficult to offer in an online environment. And as well, they can go back and be a part of clubs and sports and activities and other things like that. For elementary students, once again, considering that the Flex would just be part of a distance learning program at their home schools. Depending upon the numbers, we can't guarantee that, but we do need to continue to look at our numbers to be able to work that process, and our principals are excited about having that happen. So again, the Flex Academy does reinforce opt-in personalized learning experiences, lots of benefits with flexible scheduling, remote learning, and again, virtual academy plus more, because we would look at having engagement via the internet, but also some potential real-time instruction with our students and our teachers that could happen in class or online. And again, lots of independent activities with teacher guidance being provided, regular check-in times during the week. There is a contract. Also, where we say appear in person for proctor exams, labs, and other mandated course activities. That is in a situation where it's safe to do so. We understand that there may be some students, because of health issues, we may need to be creative in how we go about accomplishing that. We want our families to feel safe, and we want our students to continue to engage in learning and feel challenged. And that is why we are creating these options. And students with IEPs will require that IEP amended to address service delivery in this option. And if parents are interested, they should contact their site administrator. So now moving along to the long-term independent study program. Good news, we already have this program and we're growing it to make it more robust. This is really excellent for students who are already readers. The families would like to homeschool their students with support and guidance and curriculum from our school district. This does require a contract, and it requires regular check-ins with the teacher who is supervising the student in this. And failure to meet these contractual requirements would result in removal from long-term independent study and placement back at a school program. Again, our students with IEPs would require an IEP amendment to address service delivery options for long-term independent study, but absolutely we are looking to accommodate all of our students in all 3 of these options. So at our July 14th meeting, More of the details and some structures to these plans will be presented to the board. And now, Mr. Dialazzo, back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Woodward. So along with the main task force that Dr. Woodward described, I wanted to just bring attention to some subgroups or subcommittees, I should say, that are working along with the task force and doing some things on the side that are very unique to this work. And so I just wanted to draw attention to these three groups. So our school nurses who have very important expertise in student health and safety and staff health and safety for that matter. They are gathering information from the Centers for Disease Control, the California School Nurses Organization, California Department of Health, Alameda County Public Health, Occupational Safety and Health Administration or OSHA, and many other resources. So I went over a document just a few minutes ago. That document, along with other documents that we received from these agencies, will be used to develop the health and safety guidelines for the reopening task force plan. So things like physical distancing, face coverings, personal care measures, those things I just mentioned will be incorporated into our reopening document. So also the groupings of students, the distancing requirements, and then also protocol for disinfecting and cleaning our buildings and our supplies and our shared materials. So we want to make sure we get that information from our experts, and then those experts can provide information to the task force. Another group that's also working are our special education staff, and they're working tirelessly with the main task force, but through the leadership of Mary Jude Dorpinghouse, our Director of Special Education, we are starting the subcommittees to work specifically on those considerations for our various special education programs. Special day class, our preschool programs, all the way up to our adult transition programs. They all have very unique needs. And so we want to make sure that we listen and adjust and plan accordingly for all of those very unique programs. This week, and I believe today, we have sent out a parent survey to our parents to get input regarding special education, the delivery of services, the educational models that Dr. Woodward just described, distance learning. We want to hear from our parents, and so we sent out a survey to gather more information. As I mentioned, IEPs may need to be amended, alternative learning plans also. Those are things that we need to put together for each individual child. I want to state too that related services, speech therapy, occupational therapy, counseling services, all those things need to be planned for. And we need to clarify for our parents specifically what those services will look like. And so that's what these discussions hopefully can bring. And then lastly, special education specifically, we want to make sure that we're clear on the frequency of services, how we deliver services, and we need that instruction to be rigorous. So those are the things we're planning. Last bullet here, our student services staff are working on student wellness, the student wellness component of this plan. And we've talked about this, and again, the many meetings that we've had with our community. Social emotional learning is critical to this work and must be incorporated in the delivery of content. We can't underestimate that, and that has to be part of how we plan for the reopening of our schools. And then how do we train our staff? How do we identify kids? And then how do we make resources available readily and easily for our students, our families, and staff to get? So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dialazzo. So our next steps, continue our steering committee and school reopening task force meetings. Very thankful for all of the participants there, and also those who are participating because they've been contacted by the participants to participate outside of the task force in coming up with schedules and routines, and with just excellent work. We continue to post updates to our school reopening facts. Those do change on a frequent basis because information that comes our way does change. We'd like to finalize our hybrid options next week so we can bring to the Board of Trustees some robust plans, and yet we also need to be mindful that, like I said, we have to know that we may slide back into distance learning, stretch into full-time in the school setting. It just depends on the guidance that we receive. And then we'll review our pre-registration intent form data to determine staffing needs. And we'll revisit with our families who have already completed that, especially our elementary, in order to get more information from them. Contacting our families who desire flex and long-term independent study, and prepare our recommendations for the board on July 14th. So at that time, Board of Trustees, may Mr. Diolazzo or myself answer any questions for you?
Okay. Wow. Okay. Jamie, well, maybe you start first. I never do. Do you have any questions, Jamie? Jamie? Okay. Joan, do you have questions?
Here she is.
Okay. Hi, Jamie. Do you have questions?
No, but I'm just like, my head is spinning because we're being flexible, but yet planning, but there's a whole lot of moving parts with facilities and staff and the kids and the parents and childcare. I mean, I'm trying to envision how it all is going to come together, but I don't know, I can't envision it, but I feel like you do know what you're doing, and there's a lot of conversation, but I think we're just being agile and flexible, and we've just got to keep doing that to make this all happen. It's mind-boggling, actually. That's just my comment. I don't really have any questions. I'm glad, though, Janelle, that you did mention about the kids being able to stay at their own schools. I'm really glad that we had a little different outreach for special ed students. So yeah, I mean, just I guess you guys just got to keep planning.
Thank you.
I do have a question. So in the original order from the state about the things that school districts needed to do, not only to receive funding, but one of them was to provide childcare for essential workers. And then as the summer has worn on, childcare centers for everybody have opened up again. So I understand that we are abiding by the rules that we're required, to do, that the county health is put out. Are we still obligated to provide childcare on the days that students wouldn't be coming to school so that their parents can go to work, or is that requirement no longer in place? Or how's that going to work for families who both need to work and students are only coming to school 2 days a week?
So I'll seek help from my colleagues on this one, but I'll try to give it a shot. So the emergency child care supervision, based on the discussion earlier in the other item, that was actually emergency child care for essential workers, as you said, Trustee Larson, for that time being between March 13th and to the end of the school year. So after that, I have not read anything that tells me that we are now we're required to continue to provide childcare. And again, I look to my colleagues for assistance on this, but I know that emergency student supervision was specifically from the governor's order to continue during the school hours from that date, March 13th, all the way to the end of the school year. So I look for others for assistance if they have something different.
So then it sounds like parents are,
could be on their own.
That's where I was trying to figure out a nicer way to say it than that. Is there, based on the numbers of intent of families who might be interested in long-term independent study or Flex Academy, is it possible that we could have room and sufficient staff to have the remaining students in school on somewhat of a, everyday kind of normal basis? You're muted, Janelle. I'm sorry.
Man, that mute button, it just keeps getting all of us, doesn't it? Can I take a stab at that real quickly and then turn it over to you? Mr. Dialazzo, I know that today when we were meeting with principals, they, as we're talking this through, they're already thinking ahead with that, like, hey, I may have one classroom, so it would depend on staffing and many other things. I guess what I'd like to communicate is that we're absolutely open to utilizing our available resources to support our families. Can we do it at the level of all students all the time? I don't know that we can hit that capacity. And with that, I'll pass to you, Ed.
Okay, wait, hold on a second. So what's the average size of a classroom?
960 square feet.
So, okay. So that would be what?
That's our Ed specs.
Yeah. No, it's more than that, right?
No, that's
9,600.
960 is the average size of the class. Most of our
elementary classes are that size. Some classrooms, in the science or specialty may be larger, kindergarten may be larger, but your typical classroom is 960.
So that's about 20 feet by 18 feet. Is that right?
It depends.
Okay. Well, anyway, what I'm getting at is if you do a 6-foot space between desks, I think that's 9 desks.
Yeah, it's not very many.
No, there's more. You can get more. We've done some prototyping. It depends on the amount of furniture in a classroom. It depends on pathways, where the door is located. We would have to clear out. So, somewhere between, if a classroom has a lot of stuff in it and stuff, you may be down in the 12s. But if a classroom is kind of cleared out, you may be in the 16s and 18s. And so it just kind of depends on a little bit of the furniture layout. But that is one of the challenges that we're looking at, and we're trying to figure out, how can we get safely 6-foot distances and what are the numbers, but somewhere between 12 to 18 is the number, depending on the class and furniture.
Yeah, so you couldn't have even half of your students at any given time.
I believe it's 30 by 32 would be the square footage.
Typically, but then you remember, you have different classrooms. Some of them, are kind of like, actually they're thinner in one end. I mean, the width is a little bit shorter.
They're all not flares.
Yeah, flares. There you go. We have a lot of flaring classrooms.
Can I read one sentence from the document that I referenced earlier regarding physical distancing? So the first sentence, as practicable, desks should be placed 6 feet apart and arranged in a way that minimizes face-to-face contact. The next sentence, however, with cohorts in place, it is permissible to relax the 6-foot recommendation if it ensures all or more students receive in-class instruction. So for example, if reducing to 5 feet allows for more practical cohort sizes. So there's some flexibility in that language is the way I'm reading it. Again,
it works at the elementary level where you have the same group of kids with the same teacher all day long because you can establish a cohort.
That's right.
But after first period at a middle or a high school, you've just busted all your social bubbles. And so it's, it'd be great if we could just have this little conversation about, well, can't we just divide it by this or by that? But it's like, it's multi-dimensional chess. Yeah. There are so many variables that we're having to deal with that it's just not.
Well, I know there are. And believe me, I don't think that my thinking on this is at all, to the level that you guys have been investing in this idea for sure. I'm just, middle school and secondary and high school students, I'm not as concerned about, people can still go to work and have their middle school and high school students, at home. I mean, I know heresy, but 13-year-olds are capable of being at home by themselves occasionally, parents. But I'm concerned. We're trying to get people back to work, and I know this is not an answer. I'm just, it's one of the things that keeps me up at night thinking about how parents are going to manage this if they need to be at work and
the surveys. I'm wondering, the surveys, did we ever ask people if they needed childcare for whatever grade level they have? I mean, the whole childcare thing is, maybe a lot of people are working from home and they don't really need the childcare. We don't know. But when we just think about our normal childcare situation, what we have 800 kids on a wait list, but now everything's changed, right? We don't know if all those 800 kids need childcare. We don't know. We actually don't know who needs childcare at all. So I don't know that you can plan the childcare thing unless we know who needs childcare.
Yeah, that's a great point. Just another thing too with childcare. So your numbers are right, Trustee. We have about 600 students right now in Kids Club, or I should say not right now, but in the 1920 school year, pre-COVID, with about 800 on the waiting list. So I've been talking with Mr. Sheikh al-Islami about this and said we may have an opportunity to expand our childcare services. So I think the survey and asking the question on a survey about who would be interested in childcare, great idea. We can definitely do that. And then we would just have to figure out what would that facility need look like if we were truly to increase our childcare services for Kids Club. But the opportunity there if we find some space.
Yeah, it seems like at an elementary school, you would could only have like 33% of your student population on the school site at any one time. Then the rest of the percentage, how many of those need childcare and how many of those can be at home, right? I guess that's.
Might have more than that.
And if I can interject here, I think, it's going to be hard to determine because some parents will still be working at home. There are companies that they're going to be working at home for a long time. There's some of us that are already starting to go back. So it all depends on that. But also I would say that a lot of childcare providers and centers would also probably adapt to whatever changing schedule we have, if they're able to anyhow. So that's another consideration, but it's hard to determine right now.
Dr. Woodward, could I ask you some questions?
Absolutely, Mr. Maher.
Thank you. One is, if we have parents that have, more than 4 siblings, are we going to try to get them all on similar schedules? So if the parents want that or need that, or?
So Namarta, our new director of secondary education, in her current role, has been working with Equitas because one of the things that they have already, we have access to cohort data for families, but they're making it easier for us to access that. And so that's pretty simple to do if it's maybe at the elementary level, because we foresee a similar model. I think it's possible that the models will differ at the secondary school just because of, like Dr. Haglund said, I could divide our classes exactly in half for first period, but by the time they get to the next one and then the next one, there's just no way a teacher, that is a Rubik's Cube of huge proportions. So I can say that if the students are clustered at the elementary level, I think that is something we can accommodate. Will it necessarily match the secondary level? Not sure on that. We're thinking through several options for our secondary students that could include anything from distance learning to advisory periods on campuses to the hybrid model by block schedules, lots of different things for our students there.
Let me ask you about high school students. Will they be able to enroll in, let's say they enrolled in outside type courses, online courses that aren't our school districts, that could be BYU or so forth. Are we going to allow that to happen during school time? Right now we have some administrative regulations that kind of curtail some of that. Are we gonna, I guess, relax some of those or?
So good question. Actually, we've been looking into that this past week. So our new board policy actually allows for greater flexibility, and our ARs will help to craft that language. The ARs are not finalized yet. And as you know, many staff are off on summer, and this requires a lot of input. But we would be looking at that, and it would allow for greater flexibility than what we have had before. As well, through our Flex Academy, we believe that we will have a robust amount of options for our students to take advantage of within our own district. And so that's exciting. And then, of course, we partner with Las Positas College too. So I know that Heather's already been talking with them. We do believe that the Flex Academy will be very worthwhile for our secondary students, and they may be able to access some of their classes at their home schools and take some of the other ones at the Flex Academy. And that would really help them to maybe reduce the social distancing just from going into a school. So lots of flexibility and opportunity there. We're very excited about this program.
Okay, and then a question for Ed. Ed, how are we going to handle our most severe students, our special day class, the severe ones?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to having the conversations with our teachers. We're going to be doing those conversations. I have some thoughts and recommendations. I mean, really, our most vulnerable kids are kids right now who have IEPs. I just feel are not getting the instruction that they deserve. And so my recommendation, if whatever the public health allows us to do, if we can have our kids back in school face-to-face to receive instruction and the related services that I mentioned, like speech, occupational therapy, counseling, we want them back in school. So I'm looking forward to the discussions with our teachers, see what precautions we need to take given the recommendations from the county. But that would be my goal, to try and get kids back into our schools.
My last question, Dr. Woodward, is, are we going to be using Ingenuity at all?
Yes, so Ingenuity works very well with 6 through 12, which is why that Flex Academy is it really is something that would be beneficial to our students at the secondary level, because they have a wide array of courses. And so it's an accessible platform that our teachers can use and add on to the content and build in for some additional interaction.
Are we going to do a survey at the end of or ask parents how it worked at the end of summer school and students? Because I'm hearing from some students that have difficulty with processing, and they're having a hard time with, for instance, this one student told me, well, I'm being graded on 80% are quizzes, tests, and finals. I don't know if that's true. It's supposed to be that way, or the program has it that way, or, maybe Heather.
Yes, so absolutely. We can, Director Pereira can follow up and can ensure that there are not only waiting until the end of summer school, but I think that just the check-ins that they're doing right now, touching base with the students, can help us troubleshoot as we go. And but that is an excellent idea. I also think that we're very fortunate in that the timing of this allows us to gain experience over the summer, and then to be able to use those lessons learned to make a more effective program in the fall.
I would agree. Okay. Well, thank you. And thanks for all your hard work. I know you're spending 12 hours a day.
You know what? It's a team effort.
Yeah.
It's a team. And it's going to work out. It's going to be fine, and it's going to be messy. And not absolutely every single person will be happy, but we are doing our darndest to make sure that we uncover that we uncover every opportunity possible so that we can be nimble.
I have a couple more questions, but if anybody else needs to ask anything.
I do not.
I do too.
We also have a good number of public comments, just so you're aware.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Okay. Can I go ahead and ask some questions?
Sure.
Is that okay? Okay. And some of these questions are coming from people who have contacted me, but one of the questions is, what does the virtual option in the hybrid look like? Is it a modified version of what we just did, what we just completed? And another part of that question, will there be cameras in classrooms?
Great question. So what we implemented in the spring was implemented, we pivoted in 2 weeks, had it up and running. And so we've learned quite a bit. If you would see the schedules that our teachers are working on and our administrators with the task force, you would see how very different it is. We're building in structures and expectations for interactions, live interactions with our students. So I think it would have a lot more bones to the plan. And we can use the lessons that we've learned from the spring to make this even better. And we're familiar with distance learning now, so we don't have to start from scratch. In terms of cameras in the classroom, and I'll allow anybody else on cabinet to jump in, that is an extremely expensive endeavor. There are privacy issues that need to be considered with that. The installation time for this highly sophisticated equipment is something that usually would take quite a bit of time in planning. And really the magic of teaching is not just something that's captured easily on a camera. The teacher is walking around the classroom. They may do a direct instruction lesson for 15 minutes, but then they may spend an hour walking around helping individual students and meeting in small groups with students or listening to students or doing check-ins. And so there's some of it that could be captured, but a lot of the magic that happens in the classroom happens in the background during class.
Okay. And another question is for high-risk students where it's not safe for them to return to a school, but they don't want to unenroll from their home school, would they still be able to get that 100% distance learning?
So what I described tonight, Valerie, was in regards to what we're looking at the elementary level. If we find that we have a significant amount of students from the elementary level who would like to have distance learning, we may be able to then embed that just into the current school, and they don't have to leave their school and enroll in another program. Now, there may be some that are highly interested in doing something like flat flex, and it just might be the thing for them, but we're looking at that, which is why we have to go back a little bit now, which will not happen tomorrow because we need time to do it right and to plan, but we do need to go back and do some double checking on things moving forward. But if that is a possibility for our families, and we have staff that are able to do that, we'd like to be able to explore that as a viable option.
Okay.
I know that I know that the thought of needing to leave a homeschool as an elementary student and potentially not make it back to that school is a very scary thought. So we're working to be able to offset that.
Yeah, and that's really the the main point that a lot of parents have been emailing about. That's the biggest concern of not being able to, when it's safe to do so, to be able to return to their home school.
Yeah,
I have a couple other questions, but you know what? Why don't we go to public comment and
what I wanted to say was that, remember, this is not an action item. This is just a board presentation. You'll have another study session on the 14th. So there's plenty of time for parents to make contact with additional information via email or the other forums.
Just a status update of where we're at. Okay.
Can I just ask two more questions really quick?
Sure.
So one of them is, I'm just trying to envision, like at high school, right? If you have your cohorts and you're thinking of doing the block classes. So, I'm in a block class maybe with one of my friends, but then lunchtime comes, but I haven't seen my 4 other friends in my friend group, and I want to eat lunch with them. I mean, how is that going to work? Are we saying that kids can't have lunch with kids that are not in their block cohort?
So with the information that we have right now from the Public Health Department, we're being instructed to have small social bubbles.
Right.
So that would not be something that we would support. We would be able to support.
Right.
But as new information comes out, that may change.
Right. And I mean, I think that's going to be difficult for kids to maybe understand. Just like, I mean, how are we going to address them, like us instructing them about how to take all the personal safety precautions, like the proper way to put on a mask, to take it off, to not touch it, to, make sure it's clean every day. I mean, there's a lot of these things. I mean, I'm not saying that secondary kids can't handle it, but that's a whole nother level of of instruction that we're going to need to do. So I'm sure the committee's thought about it, and you guys probably have a plan for that, but I just wanted to put it out there.
Thanks.
Steve, we have about 45 minutes left of items too, and I know we have some public comment.
Okay, maybe we'll go to public comment. Patrick?
Good evening, President Maher. Yes, we have, first up is Amuda Madhavan, and then Chong Wang.
Just two?
Three.
Three, okay.
Well, no, there's more, I think. But three are up now. Chong is there.
We just have one? Well, let's go.
Go, Chong.
Chong, you're up.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Yeah. First of all, I just submitted a late comment about the 12.5. I'm a photography and a security consultant. So I want to my comment is that I strongly support the board to make the new policy, to update the policy of student individual technology. It's very important for our school district. That's my comment. For the item 12.6, and I have following comments. That's first of all, thanks for the hard work of the team, and the community member did see Dr. Hagland work on the midnight to modify the Q&A. Thanks for that. It's make the much more clarification for the confusion of the community about the flags and the hybrid. And I have the two suggestions. One is that for flags and the remote session, for flags and the remote session, is it possible that we implement that regular and live live meeting with basically between teacher and the students, so that it's just it doesn't have to be a full hour long or full class long. It's just to make sure that every student can follow to catch up the class. So otherwise, if you leave it alone, that student may be wandering around and miss a lot of assignments for that. That's my first comment. My second comment is thanks for Joan's comment. Basically, I have the same question. That's there are need for from full-time working parents. They do need a place to have the daycare for their kids. So especially the kids for the elementary one, I think the school district that didn't need to offer this kind of service for those parents. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Okay, Patrick or someone else?
President Maher, I believe that is all. If I think the other two individuals who submitted are not on. So I think that's it for tonight.
Okay, I think we've had sufficient questions. Can we move on? We still have a lot to do on our agenda, and this is just an update, kind of a brief overview. And is everybody in agreement with that? Yes, no? I see a thumb up.
Yes.
Let's move on.
Good.
We don't have the fun little Zoom emoticons, so sorry. Yes, I'm doing that.
Okay, 12.7, report discussion and possible action to appoint 6 members to the Local Control Advisory Committee.
Okay.
5 minutes. Okay, Dr. Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Maher. Dr. Vandekamp, this is all yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Woodward. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak with you. This item is in reference to the Local Control Advisory Committee, and that committee is an important contributor to our LCAP development. And these members are new and returning, and they will assist us as we adjust to new expectations for the LCAP oversight. And so we appreciate your consideration of this item. There are 6 applicants. 5 of them are returning to the committee, so they feel that their work is not done, and we appreciate their commitment to this ongoing conversation. And so we are asking approval of these applications for a 2-year term from July 2020 to June 2022.
Okay. Questions, comments?
Nope. I'll move approval of the recommended LCAC committee members.
I'll second.
Okay. Trustee Yee.
Aye.
Trustee Arkin.
Aye.
Trustee Larson.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
And Trustee Maher, aye. Okay.
And thank you to the people who are volunteering and re-upping. We really appreciate all your hard work.
Okay, as we move through the last items, I'm going to try to stay to the minutes that the cabinet suggested so we can get through everything tonight. 12.8, report, discussion, and possible action to approve 5-year contract with Learning Ally. Dr. Woodward.
Yes, this will be very quickly. Director Galetti, would you like to take this item on Learning Ally from here, please?
I sure will. Thank you. I'm going to try to be quick, but also thorough. Good evening, everybody. Learning Ally is a wonderful tool that we use for students who have reading accommodations, either as part of their IEP, 504, or just learning challenges. It is an audiobook, but it's a special type of audiobook in that it's multisensory. The words that are read are tracked and highlighted as they are being read. There are free programs out there that were included in the attachments, but one of the things that this program does that free programs don't do, one is it's human read audiobooks, which is more engaging for students. It also has teacher tools, and the teacher tools allow teachers to progress monitor and track a student and how they're doing on it. We decided on a 5-year contract because, unfortunately, like many things in life, the cost is increasing. If we chose a 1-year contract, it would be a 50% increase. If we went to renew it again the second year, if it was a 3-year contract, it was a 33% increase. By doing a 5-year contract, it was only a 20% increase. And so although it is a significant amount, I do want to make sure you understand it is over 5-year period. And this is an accommodation that we do need to provide our students, as it is in several 504s and IEPs. And outside of those, anyone who is having reading challenges, we qualify them to be able to access this program as well. And so a recommendation is to approve Learning Ally for the 5-year contract. Is there any questions that I can answer?
I just have one quick question. So which fund is this coming out of? Is it textbook fund, or is it special ed, or both, or?
Curriculum, it's the instructional materials.
Okay.
One of the things we like to say is a special ed student is a general ed student first. And so all curricular materials cover both special education and general education students.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
My other question really quickly, I asked it, but it didn't come through correctly on the beforehand questions, which is, we have 850 registered. How do we track how many are actually using it?
Yes, and I'll be honest, it is lower. It's around upper 200. And my feeling on that is we need to do better training with teachers. I do not believe we've actually held professional development on how to use Learning Ally and all of the benefits to it. And so that's really going to be the next step this year, because if we are paying for this, and it is a wonderful resource, we need to make sure the teachers understand how to use it and utilize it to the best of its abilities, to the maximum too.
Anybody else? Good job, Shay. Less than 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll move approval of 12.8, which is the 5-year contract for Learning Ally.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Trustee Yee.
Aye.
And Trustee Larson.
Aye.
Trustee Arkin,
Aye.
Trustee Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Maher, aye. It passed. 12.10, report discussion and possible action to approve the, 12.9, report discussion and possible action to adopt resolution number 2019, 2020 or 2020.43, acknowledging 5 certifications required to submit modernization and new construction funding applications to the offices of public school construction. Ahmad.
Great, thank you very much. I'm going to turn this over to our Director of Facilities and Construction, John Chwastik.
Okay, John, not to rush you, but we have 10.
I was just going to say I can beat 10. Good evening, President Maher, board members, Superintendent Dr. Hagland, cabinet members, and the community. This is basically a situation where the state is out of funding and has having the school boards recognize the state's out of funding, and therefore there's no obligation by the state. However, they will be receiving our applications for our funding. So all districts are doing this. So a little bit of history. The Office of Administrative Law approved emergency regulations back in November of 2012, of which how to identify, or for how OPSC, which is Office of Public Schools Construction, how they should be processing funding applications for modernizations and new construction when the existing bond authority has been exhausted, which it has now in Prop 51. These regulations establish the State Allocation Board an acknowledged list for the received projects, which is called an applications received beyond bond authority list, which our applications will go on once they go to once we apply for them. Applications on the list only undergo an intake review and are not fully processed by OPSC, nor presented to the State Allocation Board for approval. So there's some differences from the past when they had money. New construction applications received after September 12th in 2018 and modernization applications received after February 28th of 2019 must include a board approved resolution or a board resolution that includes the 5 following certifications. That's why we're here tonight. Bond authority, it's a recognition by the board that the bond authority is currently exhausted, item 1. Item 2, the state is not expected nor obligated to provide funding. Item 3, future state bond fund measures may not provide funds for our applications. Number 4, and future state school facilities programs may be substantially different than the current school facilities program, which often happens too with new state school bonds. And then district applications may be returned. So again, on item 5, state is not responsible for any pre-construction or construction activities taken by the district, which will be at the district's own risk. So the recommended action is the administration recommends the board to adopt the resolution 2019-2020.43.
Okay, questions, comments? Questions or comments? Has everybody had a chance to read the resolutions? I don't think we need to read them if we've had a chance to read them already. Have we?
I'll move approval of resolution 2019-2020.43.
Second.
Okay. Trustee Arkin?
Aye.
Trustee Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Larson?
Aye.
Trustee Yee?
Aye.
Trustee Maher? Aye. Okay, it's passed and adopted. 12.10, report, discussion, and possible action to approve CSBA 2020 Delegate Assembly runoff election. Dr. Hagland.
Thank you, President Maher. Every year, the board participates in a CSBA election for delegates. In this case, this year, there was a tie, and so they're asking the board to vote in a runoff between two individuals. I think you see the ballot there before you. Mia Lisa Bonta from Alameda USD and Ann White from Livermore Joint or Valley Joint USD. So you have the option to vote or to not vote, but it's put before you to vote tonight. One delegate.
Well, I'd like to suggest that we vote for Ann White. She's done it before. She's been on our thing, which I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's nice to get new people, but we already have a bunch of new people that just came on. And there's a lot of people that are in our delegate assembly right now that are not going to run for re-election. So there'll be a whole bunch of other new seats open. But Ann White just brings a lot of knowledge, stability. She has time. She's just a really good member of the delegate assembly.
And
so
I would also say the exact same thing Jamie said. So I'd be supportive of Ann White as well, us voting for her.
Make the motion. I move approval. I vote for Ann White.
I second.
Okay. Trustee Yee.
Aye.
Trustee Maher, aye. Trustee Arkin.
Aye.
Trustee Larson.
Aye.
And Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Okay, Ann White wins, 5-0. Okay. 12:11. Report, discussion, and possible action to amend and extend the employment agreement for Assistant Superintendent of Business Services. Dr. Haglund.
Thank you, President Maher. These next few items actually are very similar in that they are implementing items within the contracts of Executive Cabinet. There are 3 items in each of these amendments. One is to extend the term of the agreement for 1 year, resulting in a new 3-year term. This is done so that we retain or we promote the retention of our highly qualified executive team by making sure that they have secure contracts. Section 2 of the contract, that is a compensation section of the contract. I'd like to read it out loud, at least in this first one, if I could. And this is similar language in all of the executive contracts. In an effort to maintain equity with other certificated and administrative personnel, the board shall consider a salary increase each year of this agreement equal to the same percentage increase given to the administrative unit board approval of the increase in a regularly called meeting as required by law. Any such increase shall be effective on the same date as granted to the administrative unit. In this particular case, each of the cabinet members has mutually agreed to waive the terms of this section of their contract with the understanding that the item will be brought back to the Board of Trustees at their November 12th meeting for reconsideration. And the third item on the addendum is to simply state that all other sections of the existing contract remain in full force and effect since we're waiving one section.
Comments, questions?
I have a comment. So we spent a lot of time at the beginning of this meeting talking about Superintendent Haglund and the great job he's done this year, and he rightly so praised his team and the people that they supervise and so forth. And I really appreciate that the executive cabinet has chosen to defer their compensation increase, which they are entirely and fairly warranted to receive. They, just because they make a higher salary than other people, stuff doesn't mean that that they should not receive the same bonuses, raises and so forth that the other organizations are, because they are working, as we heard today. I mean, item after item, the budget, the school options and so forth. These people are working their tails off. And it really, really bothers me that we're not able to provide compensation equivalent, raises equivalent to others. So I just really appreciate your guys' willingness to defer that. And it is my intention that we we live up to this wording on this item and revisit this in November as is stated on here. But anyway, that's my only comment.
Okay. Any other comment?
I ditto what Mark just said.
Okay.
I do too. It's just your leadership, you know, on so many of these issues. You're just working nonstop, creatively, thoughtfully. You're just doing a tremendous job, all four of you, and well, five counting David. And you know, it's just tremendous, the leadership that you've shown, and you know, I appreciate, you know, this deferral, because it is one of those things that, you know, you're modeling for some other staff, and I really want to thank you for that and appreciate you for that, and just say I think this year has been remarkable in so many ways, but really you guys have done just a tremendous job.
I would say the same thing. I think the all of cabinet has been doing a remarkable job, especially under the situation we've been under the last couple of months. So I appreciate all of your hard work and your dedication. And I know you have a lot of employees underneath you that are really supportive too. All of our classified employees, you know, there's a whole team involved as well, I realize. But thank you for all of your hard work. Again, I think you're doing a wonderful job, and revisiting this a bit later when our budget is a little more clear, I think is a good idea. So thank you. And that extends to the whole cabinet.
And I just would say the same thing. Thank you. When Dave and I spoke about this, we mentioned that we'd like to bring it back in November, because as was stated, and I think it should be clear, that everyone else in the organization did get the 2.75. And our leaders are saying, hey, we'll wait a while to see what happens. So thank you. And with that, do we have a motion to approve 1211?
Is it a possibility that we can do 1211, 1212, 1213 all together?
I would ask you.
Since they're all the same.
You've been on here the longer than I have on the board.
And 1214.
Can we?
I think we can. I mean, they're all exactly the same, basically.
So there's no reason why you couldn't vote them all as a single item that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Okay, so I'll move approval of, let's see, where does it start?
1211 starts.
12, 11, 12, 12, 12, 13, 12, 14, 12, 15.
15 is a different item, but
oh yeah,
Steve has
yeah.
that one.
So 14,
I'm not
yeah.
comfortable hearing that one myself.
Yeah, okay, 12, 14.
Okay.
So.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion to approve items 12. Oh, you did? So I didn't hear you.
Trustee Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Arkin?
Aye.
Trustee Larson?
Aye.
Trustee Yee?
Aye.
And Trustee Maher? Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
12.15, report discussion and possible action to amend and extend the employment agreement for Superintendent Dr. Haglund. Okay, I'd like to introduce this item, and let me get my form here. Based on the employment agreement for Superintendent Dr. Haglund, he's entitled to a one-year extension because we want to keep him. And this will give him some stability, knowing that he has the contract. He certainly has lived up to every expectation, in fact, exceeded many, many, many of the expectations. So we'd like to extend his contract for a year, which now becomes 4 years, which he had, and he's moving on to it, his fourth year, starting with July 1, Dave?
Yes.
Okay, I think we've, certainly all of us have spoken highly and how much we appreciate what you've done. Certainly we appreciate the team that you've put together, the hours that you put in, the lonely hours you've put in at times being at home, but yet it hasn't, your resolve hasn't wavered. One thing that people mentioned that I agree with is your integrity and your honesty and your transparency, and you're willing to meet almost at any time and anywhere. Of course, it's virtual now, but you must have a meeting every other night, just about, with someone in a group of parents. So you're building the trust of the district. And when I hear how your team has put together items tonight and opening and budgets, that just doesn't happen, but it happens because your people that work for you appreciate you, don't want to let you down, and they work hard. And for that, I'm internally grateful, and I know everybody else on the board is. So I'm recommending that we grant this amendment and grant that 4th year. Any other comments? He's shaking his head. No one wants to say anything?
We
Mary
would
said
be
it.
reiterating what we were.
Yeah, I'll move approval of 12.15.
I'll second.
Okay, get it on tomorrow.
Trustee Yee, Trustee Yee,
Aye.
Trustee Arkin,
Aye.
Trustee Larson,
Aye.
Trustee Miller,
Aye.
and Trustee Maher, aye. And Dave, would you be my grandfather? Okay, and with that, I think that is our last item. Our next board meeting is July 6th at 9 a.m., correct?
Yes,
Am I correct? I know it's late.
9 a.m.
Oh, yes, that's the 9 a.m. one.
Yes, I said, no, we just kind of, what? Okay, so this meeting is adjourned at 11:13. Good night, everyone.
Everyone, thank you.
Everybody.
Aye.